I'm O'Day. That's Vicky. I'm me. You're you. We are we.
Oh my god, that was so corny.
The You, Me, We
goodness.
podcast.
Welcome back to the You, Me, We podcast. This is episode 30 with me, Vicky.
And O'Day.
And we have special guests today.
Shout out to our guests in the building.
Hi.
What's up? What's up?
Go ahead.
So we'll go around, introduce yourself, let the people know who you are.
Well, my name is Jen. I'm known as Trailblazer Mom. Hey.
Oh, you got the Instagram shout out?
Yeah, you have to.
I'm Trailblazer
Gotta
Mom.
get your follows up.
Well, I got a fitness thing, so it's not nothing to do. But anyway, my name is Eugene. All right, my Instagram is Mean Gene Muscle. All right, that's it.
Hey.
Well,
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Dave, what were you going to say?
no, I was going to say,
Drop your 2 cents. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm clearly Phoenix MPM muscle, but we're the same. Phoenix MPM no muscle, actually.
That's
He
all
can
right.
help you. He can
That's
help
all right.
you.
I can help
I
you.
Get
need,
your
I need, I'm gonna need
gains.
some
On my
help.
page, hey,
If you got time.
yeah, I got the time.
I got a lot of work to
He's
do.
like a lot of time.
149 pounds of pure muscle, so you know. So
Oh,
you know.
okay, we can get that up.
Oh,
Hey, we
dang.
can get
Yeah,
that up.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't
Get
body
that up.
shame me. Don't body shame.
Yeah, no shame, no shame.
I see a wellness
He in
coach.
shape though. He in shape.
I'm in a shape.
Yeah,
I'm in a
you-
shape.
a shape.
You're in
Pencil.
your best
He's
shape.
like,
Yes.
he's like, I'm ashamed.
Yo, all my coworkers get mad at me because a lot of my coworkers, we all see the same wellness coach at the job, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I see her too," and they're all like, "Why are you seeing the wellness coach?" I was like, "She's helping me gain weight," and there's like 2 of us on campus who we see her, and she helps us like.
That's good.
She helps
Yeah.
change our eating habits,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and she covers everything from like stress to time management to your eating. And when I first started meeting with her and I followed everything she said, I was gaining like a pound a week, and then I fell off
Okay.
and lost a pound a week, and I'm back to my 100.
But he's
Aw.
like, oh, the shakes you make in the morning, can you make me a shake? I'm like, all right, sure. And then I made him a shake, and I'm like, oh, damn, I made you a shake. He's like, all right, I'll drink it.
I'll drink half
It
of
was
it.
like 4 hours later, and I'm like, this is why. That was all my spinach is wasted. I was so
coffee will do it,
upset.
too.
You gotta eat it. You gotta drink it right
that
away.
Coffee suppresses your appetite too.
Really?
sometimes. Yeah.
Yes.
Coffee. Yeah.
Don't
See,
tell
you gotta
him
be
that.
a water
And
drinker.
the one coffee I have a day, the one
Yeah.
that I have a day
How big
in
is
the
big?
morning.
Uh-huh.
Is it how big? It's
It's huge.
Yo,
yeah.
my students come to my office like, "You okay?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Oh, you got 2 coffees and a soda on your desk.
God.
Cause you gotta
Yeah,
wash
no.
your coffee down with a soda. Don't judge me. Anyway,
All right. Yeah. All right.
See?
That's another topic. That's another.
they're gonna coffee
What's up?
shame and body shame me. Go ahead.
So today we asked our special guest to join us because next month, right? Well, actually, like next week,
Yeah.
April.
pretty much.
Yeah.
April is Autism Awareness Month.
Yes.
And they have a son who is autistic. And we wanted to talk about what's not usually discussed when discussing autism,
Mhm.
which is the family, the parents,
Yes.
the challenges that you faced together, dealing with autism, how that affected your relationship. Because I can like at 1% imagine. And it's hard. It is hard for people who don't have an autistic child or someone who is a relative that's autistic, that they come into contact daily, because that's special. Because you can have an autistic relative, but if you don't deal with them, you still don't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we asked you guys because you have a lot of years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know exactly what you're talking about.
A lot of
and-
trial and error.
And I'm sure this is going to be very helpful to a lot of people.
Yes.
Not just people who have autistic children or just recently, they were recently diagnosed or whatever, but all of us, we will all always come into contact with someone that's autistic, and this is important for everyone to know.
Mm-hmm.
And we hope you all learned something
I'm sure
today.
we will.
I'm sure we will too.
So let me ask you, if you had to rate your knowledge of autism before you had your son on a level of 1 to 10.
Oh.
So your knowledge of autism, where would you rate it before?
Before?
It's like, what is autism?
0.
I would only say for me it would be like a 2.
Okay.
Only because I had a cousin who is a child with autism who was kind of my age. He was a little younger. But I didn't know
But
why he
even
was
then,
different.
Exactly.
I didn't know why.
Even then, I
his-
knew but I didn't still know what autism was. Like
Right.
we knew he was different. So okay, he's people like say, oh, he's a little slower than that's what we
He
always
couldn't
did back
go to
then.
certain places.
Yeah,
They would
he was
have him
different.
hiding. He would always eat the same type of food. And we were just like, I remember my parents would say, he's just spoiled. They just have him spoiled.
That's that old school
That's
thing.
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh
And
my
that's
They'll
goodness.
just say
another
he's
thing.
spoiled,
Yeah.
that, they just have him eating chicken nuggets and
Yeah.
bread with butter all day. Like, he knows what he's doing. Look at that. He's so smart. And I remember having conversations with my cousin, and he would just answer me. He wouldn't look at me, but he would answer me.
Yeah.
And then
I
that would be it.
remember.
And then he'll go back into his, just his own state.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yes.
that's
We
what
didn't
was
know
autism.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
So so when it happened to us, I was like, wow, I wanted to speak to my family and see, and they're still not knowledgeable because that
Wow.
happened over 30 years ago. And 30 years ago, the stuff that we know now wasn't available to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was almost like, go ahead and hide your kid because they're not going to be accepted in society.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's very sad back then
And-
versus now.
Yeah.
How many
And even 10 years ago when we
Yeah.
had
I know.
our son.
of your old school family members are telling you just pray? God is gonna.
Oh,
God will fix it.
yeah.
That is the constant. Like, I'm like, oh, he needs that medicine.
Yeah.
Like, with Kala, I'm like, oh, he needs to take this medicine. And they're like, we're going to pray. I'm like, okay, but do it while you're giving him the medicine.
And again,
Exactly.
and again, we're
You
not.
can
we're
pray.
not-
Like,
Exactly.
don't
But
forget
do that.
You gotta-
Don't
Give
forget
him
that
the medicine.
component.
Yeah, we're not saying anything about religion. We are.
No,
some of
exactly.
us. I go to.
But it's
I
not
was gonna say
just
I go to church, I
prayers.
don't.
Yeah, it's
God
not
also
just,
gave us doctors
you gotta-
that can write prescriptions.
Yeah.
Give it
you
to
gotta
him.
do things. You gotta work.
Like I have some family members that would be like, don't worry, God will fix that. It'll heal. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
his condition, that's his life. It
I'm like, right now,
Yeah.
it's not
Yes.
happening today, so that's why I need you to give him the medicine.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
And time won't fix it.
No.
Yeah.
yeah.
You gotta
No.
act now.
You gotta
Yeah.
act.
You
yes.
gotta act immediately. And I think that was our biggest downfall in the beginning, is that we didn't react to
No.
it as fast because we were like, he's a boy,
Yeah.
he's just very active.
Exactly.
It takes time. Mind you, my mom kept saying, he's not talking, Jenny. He needs to talk by
Yeah, she
age
was the
1.5.
first one.
He
She-
needs to be
Yeah,
talking.
her mother was the first
da-da-da-da.
one
And-
to notice that.
Yeah,
And
Well,
we-
like, he wasn't talking in what way? Like,
Like-
just not saying any words, or
No, he was
No.
saying cookie. He'll say mom. He'll say
Yes.
dad. But
a lot more
what-
than Kalal saying now.
But she was just more like, she's like, oh, if you would have taught him Spanish, that was her thing. If you would have taught him Spanish, he would have been talking so much
Wow.
more, So it
I
was.
kind of do believe that just a little bit, but like only because when I go to like my cousins that their kids only speak Spanish, they're having like adult conversations,
in Spanish.
like straight
Yeah.
up, and it's so
Perfect.
perfect. I'm like, can you teach me Spanish
Wow.
to like the 2-year-old?
Yeah.
But
That's
I
good.
also know it's not the same for every kid.
Yeah.
It's just not.
It's not the same, but we can't always think that not every kid is not supposed to develop by a certain time.
True. That is
You
very
know?
true.
So we can't be naive and say, well, my kid might just take longer. And yes, your kid might take a little bit longer, but when it comes to language development, they see you talking every day.
Yeah.
You're talking to your child every day, or you're supposed to be talking to your child every day. And if your child isn't saying at least 3-word sentences by the age of 2 or at least 4, and reciprocating and just going back and forth, then you need to look into that immediately. And if you don't,
No, I was gonna say. See, back then I didn't know that. We didn't know that back then. I didn't know that at least.
and I was a teacher.
Exactly. We didn't know that.
So even me being a teacher, I was actually pretty much bashed by the neurologist.
Yes.
And
oh, I remember. Yeah.
That was
We talk about that.
awful.
That was the first reality check. I would
Slap in
say.
the face?
Yeah, slap in the face. Basically, when we saw the neurologist after
So
that.
so at what age did he get diagnosed, or like when did
That
you
was within
start
our-
to pick that up and you're like, wait, let's
What he was
So
doing.
I already had Andre. Andre wasn't even 1. He was probably about 4 months old or
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
And in order to make these appointments, it takes a long time. There's like a 5-month, 4-month waiting period.
Wow.
Yep. And there aren't that many neurologists out there that do evaluations. So we just happened to, I don't remember exactly how we did it, but I told my pediatrician. My
Yeah, we
pediatrician
told. Yep.
And he was like, okay, if this is what you think, he's like, because he didn't even believe it himself.
Yeah, he's another old school doctor.
He was like,
so.
no, he's okay.
Hey,
He looks
like you
fine.
were saying, just pray. And
Yeah,
he was
he's like,
that was him.
give
Go
him
with
a
his own
lot of
pace.
love. Yeah.
Exactly. That was
He's
him.
like, give him a lot of love and attention.
But
and
how old was Chauncey at this?
2.
Oh.
He was 2. And so by the time I got the appointment, he was like 2 and 4 months, 2 or 5 months.
Yeah.
So we went to see the neurologist. We had Andre in the car seat. You know, you could carry him and stuff.
Never forget that day. Just carried him. I remember how the building looked. You just remember
It was that
everything. I remember the office. I just
it was
remember
almost
everything.
that traumatizing.
Yeah, you remember.
You know, you'll always remember like your first day when they drop that bomb on you and they pretty much tell you this is what it is.
I remember all of it. I remember
Yeah.
all the doctors. I remember all of it. Yeah,
Yep.
you're right.
Yeah. So that's when she told us, she's like, oh yeah. She's like, you didn't notice this? And I'm like, notice what? She's like, you're a teacher. You're an educator. How did you not see the signs?
Yeah.
And I look, and I was like, "What do you?" Was like, you know, and I was in shock. I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean? How come I didn't see what signs? He's a boy. He's a happy kid. He wasn't an aggressive kid. He wasn't a behavioral kid. So, you know, when you don't see those things, and you see a kid that's happy and you know that's just enjoying things, how do I make that connection as a parent? Because people forget that yes, I'm an educator, but I'm a parent first. So the things that I apply at work, sometimes you don't always apply it at home.
Right, and that's true, and that's for every profession. I
That's
don't
why
care
they
what
tell
your
you.
profession is.
Yeah, that's why doctors or surgeons don't operate on family members because your mentality is not in the same state of mind.
Yeah.
True.
When you know you have your family member here on the table. So then I didn't apply those same skills that I learned as an educator onto my son. So the neurologist, you know, and I remember her looking at him like, you also work with adults with special needs. She's like, you didn't see this either?
Yeah.
And we just sat there like.
And I'm like, okay, they're adults. Like, first of all, like they're not, children. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not
like you
looking.
can't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
First
She
of
was
all,
hard.
while
I would
She
never
was-
make that connection.
Exactly.
Like,
It was so different than while I worked, and I was like, no, it's not. He's a baby. It's my son. I'm not thinking the same exact things, as with adults with him. So it was just basic, simple things, and she did a test on. She was like, okay, had him, play with this. So he's okay. She was just watching them, and we're like,
And for you, it looks normal.
yeah. And I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, okay, yeah. There was with the first thing I remember, she said was with them, with the toy. Remember
with the toy, he kept
yeah,
flapping
he
it.
always
and
flapping. She's like, oh, okay, flapping. And I was like,
she's like, you see? Look at that.
Yeah,
She's
and
like,
we-
this
and we're
is
you were
like-
not-
just flapping a toy.
yeah.
Yes. It was like a doctor's tool, like one of the
Yeah, any toy.
thing,
So
anything.
have it, and he'll he'll
Playing.
go like this, yeah.
Sounds
And
like he's playing with
he'll
a
go
toy.
like that. To us, we're like,
And then
I'm
she
playing
gave
with a
him
toy.
trains, and then he lined up the trains.
Yes, he lined up.
So
let's
she
just
was like,
say-
"Oh, this is another thing." But I'm
so
for
he'll have
lining up
toys.
trains?
Yeah,
Lining
he'll
up
line
trains.
them
But
up.
how was he like
Like
back
this.
to back
That's
or?
crazy.
Yeah, like
But isn't
this.
that what you do for trains?
that's how we interpret it.
What I would say, I was like,
So
oh,
the
you
problem
can make a
is
line.
if you
Yeah,
break
he's-
up
yeah.
if you break up that line, what happens? So it's basically your reaction, their reaction to when you break up a routine
When you
of
take it
theirs,
out of order. So
or whatever it is. Yeah.
Oh, so it wasn't the lining up of the
interruption.
trains. Did she like take one away or something or?
Yeah, and then he came up by her, and then he tried to grab it from her again. Like he was like, "No, this is my toy," and she's
See, I
like,
would just see it just like that. Like
That's what kids do.
and he
That's
was
his
just
toy.
moving. He
That's
was
what we thought.
hopping. He was
Yeah.
moving from one place. She would talk to him, and he would just like, she would try to sing a
Not
song.
make eye contact.
He had better eye contact, but he wouldn't sustain eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't something that he'll, Andre, Chauncey, can we do this, or what's your name, or blah, blah, blah. Like he'll just be like that and look away right
he'll
away.
answer, but he won't look directly.
He's quick.
I
Chauncey
would've
has always
never-
been a very quick boy. So to us, I mean, this boy was moving our sofa. Okay, for fun.
Oh my
For fun. And we were like, what is he doing? Is he like, does he need all this energy out?
Oh my god.
At the age of 2, we would take him to the park. That was about, how many miles is that park?
All the what's the name?
Yeah, in Saddle
River, yeah.
River Park, County
Yeah,
Park.
he ran
And
the whole time.
he ran literally
The
people
whole around the whole
thing nonstop.
park nonstop.
wow.
A 2-year-old.
We were jogging and he ran. Yeah,
He
the
ran
whole time.
the whole time.
I'm looking. I'm like,
this is not
He's
normal.
gotta stop.
We were like, this is not.
kept
This
going.
is not.
He just kept going. I'm like, wow, he's really good. So I'm looking. I was like, you are gonna be sore tomorrow. Next thing you know, I'll never get out the bed. He walked. He's like, his legs came out. I was like, there it is. I was like, I knew it. I knew at some point. I was like, you're gonna have to feel this. I was like,
Again, like us not knowing certain things, I would just think, I would automatically say, track is the family business.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
Well,
it's
well,
in
he
his
would
blood.
say, yeah, he would say, he'd be like, oh, he's an athlete. He's an
Yeah,
athlete.
yeah.
He's like, he's gonna play
'cause I play
basketball
sports,
or whatever.
So
And I was just like, I don't know, he's gonna do something. That's all I remember saying. I was like, he's gonna do something. But one thing I want to say before we continue too, you said the word autistic, and a lot of families don't like that word autistic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because no, it's
yeah,
okay.
I saw you react to it. I was like, we're just getting into that.
I know. I want to say it because for the other families that that might be listening or whatever, just pretty much defending everybody. So autistic is the diagnosis. That's like the name. So what we want people to know is that our child is not defined by that label.
Right.
That our child is a child with autism. So they're a child with this type of diagnosis.
Yes.
So what it's called is called the patient first or the child first before the medical term.
Yeah.
So when we talk about these things, that's why you'll hear us say, yeah, he's a child with autism or yeah, he has autism.
That's good. So we all learned that. Because I'm sure I'm sure it's not just me. Like
no, it's
no,
not.
it's a
yeah,
lot
so
when
that's,
we
that's
read,
definitely
a lot of
when I
important to
read
learn.
certain quotes and I see somebody write the word autistic, I'm like, nope, delete. I'm like, I'm not even gonna.
I get
like,
what quotes you mean. Yeah.
You already kind of you can gauge their knowledge base of certain things going off of the terms they use.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, us autistics. I'm like, no.
Like, oh, you knew.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
Or it could just be a person who's back in time, like a long time ago, that's how they used to call it. But now they want to make sure that they're putting the person first before the diagnosis.
And I see why that's really important because when you put the diagnosis first, you're already boxing them in. Yeah,
and you're putting them in just this. Yeah, exactly. You're putting
just
them in
boxing
this box.
them in, and then whatever your generic assumption is of that box, that's all you're gonna keep them in, as opposed to just them as a person,
right?
Which that is what they are. They are a person.
Yes,
like all of us, we are people.
Yep. And they're all different. Like
exactly.
What my son has, the next family is not gonna have the same type of challenges that we have. And there's a lot of things that we talk about, and we're like, oh my God, we're so thankful that he doesn't have this, or like as difficult as it can be on a day-to-day basis, there's still so many other things that families have and go through that we're like, I can't even imagine how like the friction between like the couple and the family and other children, like what are their siblings going through. So
I think that's one thing I've experienced, where the different levels, because I'll look, we're in a Facebook group with for Khalil's condition, and I'll see some of the parents and family members posting stuff, and it'll make me say, does Khalil even have this condition? Because they'll post it. I'm just like, I've never seen Khalil show any signs of that. Their kids are in the hospital, back and forth.
Like constantly.
I'm like, either Khalil doesn't have this, or he just has, he's like a
very
low.
very
But then you learn more. There's different levels.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's different levels.
Yep. And you take that information and you learn more about it, and you just hope that you can be prepared for it.
Yes,
if it happens.
Yes.
Now you mentioned you can only imagine the toll it's taken on the family, the parents. I know we've had our experiences and are still having experiences with this new norm of ours. So what are some new norms or some of the tolls it's had? She was like, you want to go first?
You go ahead.
Because I'm sure it's probably caused some tension. Prime example, Vicky and I, we had this whole, we had a nurse or a representative come out, show us how to give Khalil his shots, and we're like, we're taking notes. And I remember we kind of had a little tension between us that first time we gave a shot. I think I did it, botched it, totally screwed it up, bent the needle. I think Khalil was bleeding.
Oh my God.
And I know Vicky was looking at me like, she gave me that look like, it's one simple needle. Why?
Or like that, because the needle's so thin.
Yeah.
If it just grazes him, it just scratch it, like
It
he'll
scratch
have
him.
a whole line.
That's what I did. I
'Cause
scratched
it's
them. I scratched them. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
thin.
Yeah.
It is so incredibly thin.
So something like that, there was some tension.
And I'm like,
yeah. And I'm sure there's times when like one of us wouldn't address clearly he's having like a situation where he's probably tired because his condition, his body's being affected, and the other's looking at the other person like, why didn't you not notice this? You know, like so. We know we've been there. So
it was like that in the beginning, definitely a lot.
Yeah, because we do have, so you guys had nurses, we had ABA therapists come into our home.
And what was that?
ABA therapists. ABA. So ABA is the Applied Behavior Analysis. It's the type of therapy that they use, which is all research based, in how to teach them how to write, how to behave, anything, how to dress themselves. So it's a form of teaching. It's a form of teaching that they use based off their behavior. So it could be, they could have a token board, a reward system, and if he does certain amount of things correctly, he earns something at the end of it. And depending on his endurance level, it can be go on for a long time. It could be for a short time. So he'll earn breaks. Whatever it is. So we would have these people come in, and a lot of the times it happens when he's at work. So basically he just hears all the things that I have to tell him what they did. And be like, man, I'm tired of these people come to my house. How many times do they have to come? What? They got to come here again? And I'm like, yeah, honey. I was like, he needs it, you know, and it's just a constant revolving door, you know. People would leave because, you know, like they leave the job or whatever.
Then somebody
else comes in. Then we have occupational therapy. Now we have an occupational therapist coming in. Occupational therapist does fine motor stuff. And Chauncey has a lot of sensory needs. So at the time when he was little, the occupational therapist would work on him touching slimy things, gooey things, because he wouldn't touch it.
Because he wouldn't,
He would freak out. Texture.
Even grass. Remember the grass at one point? There was grass outside. We'd be outside, and he was like, ugh. Then
he wouldn't want to touch it.
Was you one of those babies in them YouTube videos where the kids would
they would like
swing their legs up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he would do that. He wouldn't eat like, you know, mushy things like bananas. So we would have to have people. And, you know, some people, I remember my mom would always yell at me and say, well, you could teach him how to do that. You don't need these people to come in here and do this stuff. But
not that easy.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
I had to, like, I felt like we took a huge beating from my parents, and you know, because we knew what we wanted to do, and we said, we're not experts at this,
Right?
We need the real people
Like,
who
you're
know.
okay to be like, listen,
show us.
Show us. I'm like, I
us.
want to
old
learn.
school's not like that. Old school's like,
no.
I have all the answers, and we're like, no, you
Yes.
don't.
Exactly.
Hello, no, you don't. Look at me.
Old
No,
school's
you
like
don't.
tea. Just give him tea.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Seriously,
Yeah, my mom would be like, drink, give him soup.
Yeah.
You know,
He'll be okay.
sopa, you know, or whatever. I'm like, no, mom. I'm like, this is not gonna work for him.
Just give him a little sip of beer.
She's like, look,
and he'll go to sleep.
Yeah. She'll go ahead and like literally serve him, like put, you know, the spoon in his mouth, and I'm like, he needs to pick it up himself. Like, that's not the point. She's like, as long as he's eating, that's all that matters.
You're
You
like,
know, it's such a like,
Yeah.
you know, so you're kind of defeated. But you know, we went through a lot of just, you know, the two of us knew that we had to be a team together. Like
Absolutely.
there were many times where we'll be in disagreements, especially when it came to consequences, because we wanted to make sure that that we treated him like any other kid.
right?
If you do something wrong, you're gonna get pop out.
Absolutely.
You know, or whatever consequence it was at the time, you get that
Absolutely.
time out. And you know, he wanted to raise his son the way how he
Basically
was
how I
raised.
Yeah.
Get a punch in the face.
Not like that, but
He
yes.
knows
know what
very
I mean,
well
yeah.
that
Yeah.
Khalil's the one that's handing out the ass whoopings in this house.
Khalil has definitely headbutt me before, so
Absolutely.
headbutt him right back. I'm not even joking.
He is such a
Headbutt him
liar.
right. No, we were sitting right here, and Khalil just took it upon himself to like headbutt me, so
But it's all cause and effect.
headbutt him back.
That's what I call it.
And that's what you want to teach them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always
agree.
say, I'm like, he's gonna learn. I always
Yep.
say, I was like, he's gonna learn. I was like, cause and effect. You do this. I remember one time he would not get dressed. The boy would not get out of the shower,
Yeah,
and I
you-
was
I
like,
mean-
honey, and a lot of, cause he works evenings,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of the time I'm by myself with the boys. 90% of the time,
Yeah.
I'm by myself with the boys. So I'll tell him, I'll relay the messages to him, and he'll be like, babe, just pull him out of that shower. I'm like, honey, if I do that, I'm going to bust my ass in that shower. Or somebody's going to hurt themselves. So you know what I did? I opened up the curtain. I opened up the bathroom door. I was like, you are going to be cold. When you're ready, you will come out.
Like this.
Yes.
It's like,
yep.
You're like, where did this wind come from and why am I cold all of a sudden? Like, I'm in the bathroom.
And let me tell you, that boy looked at me. I think he was 3 or 4 years old. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, are you ready now? And then he went and grabbed his towel and put it on. I was like, there you go.
That cold.
Yeah. You gotta learn.
So you gotta get creative.
Cause and effect. I always say it. I was like, cause and effect. Mind you, I'm like, this boy's gonna get sick. You know, I'm like, I'm freaking out in the back of my mind. I was like, he's gonna get sick. He's gonna get hypothermia. I was like, oh my God, I'm a terrible parent. When diapers is gonna call. I was like, something. But he learned. Now he knows. I was like, I'll tell him. I'm like, Chauncey, I'm counting to 5. If you don't get out the shower right now, it's going to be cold.
Oh, see, he's like, wait, wait.
And that's a big thing with our son with Chauncey. He understands, you know, just because he have autism, but he understands everything. Anybody he's around, he understands everything you're saying. It's not like he doesn't understand. Oh, we can say no. He understands everything.
And we've always embedded that in him too. Like we've never dumbed down the way we talk to him.
That's so important.
We kept our conversations very real with him and very positive. And we would tell him, we're like, Chauncey, we know you're listening. Like, you need to be doing this.
Because he won't respond right. Because as we're saying this to him, you know, he'll, you know, look around, you know, he won't make eye contact. But then you say, okay. And he'll be like, okay, daddy, or okay, mommy. And then he'll go and do exactly what we just said. So he understands exactly. He follows everything. He'll hear something else in the background. And he'll be like, okay. Then you see later, he'll do exactly what you're like, oh, you heard.
I know. And then we give each other a high five. We're like, he listened to us.
He got that one off.
Yeah. So,
but see, that's also another good point, too, because people always assume, like, if you're not looking at me, you're not listening.
No, that's what I'm,
So
and that's hard. That's hard to
and
identify.
Yeah, it is.
We're the type of people that when we have conversations, I need to see you. Like I need to look at you and know that you're understanding what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But in his case, that's not true. In his case, he'll give you eye contact, he'll look at you, but he can't sustain it for a long time. Right. But he's there. He's all with it. He's all with it. So that's what we always say. When we talk, we're like, don't say nothing. You know, like if it's something. He's listening. Yeah, he's listening.
Oh, he's always listening.
And he's very well aware of his surroundings.
Yes.
But yeah, those are definitely his strengths that I would say.
Oh, you forgot with vision. Oh, he has hawk eyes. Charles can see. Oh man, there's many times where we'll be in the house and he'll see something. And I'm looking. I'm like, no, I don't see. Like he'll see a bug. He's like, oh, it's a bug. He'll say bug. I'm like, where? Like bug. I'm like. Weird. And then I'll never forget. I remember. I think you had it before with him. He's like, if he sees something, he sees it. I'm like, I don't see anything. I'm looking. I don't see nothing.
He always likes to downplay everybody.
Yeah,
he's always
I don't see nothing.
Man, he's like,
There's
you lying,
here.
whatever. And I'm like, honey, if he's saying it, it's true. Like he don't lie.
Next thing you know, I'm like, and I'll walk away, and somehow I'll come back, and I'm like, oh. I was like, oh, it's my butt. And it was like,
he's like, I told you.
I told you.
He's like, 10 minutes ago.
I was like, how do you see that? But the way the bug, it was camouflaged.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I was like, what? And he was sitting at a couch far away, and he saw it. And I'm like, how the hell you see that? I was like,
the moment I hear him say like a bug, and I'm like, Chauncey, where? Tell me where
when he sees something, is there. Is something there.
You're like, where? He's like, here.
Yes, yes. He wouldn't touch it.
No, he won't touch it.
But he'll point at
it. Right there.
He'll tell you.
Like, right there.
It was actually like a curtain like this. We were like in an apartment, and he's like, oh, a bug. Like mad calm. And I was like, and I literally ran out of that place, and I was like, where is it? And he's just like, nah, I don't see no bugs.
I'm looking dead at him.
Get out of here,
man. Boy, crazy.
She's like, no question.
No.
I'm out.
She's like, if he saw something, he saw it. I'm like, okay. And then I look again, and I was like, it just happened to move. And I was like, it's right there. I was like, it is. I was like, Chauncey, I was like, how do you see that? I was like, she's like, get out of here. Get it.
I was like, kill it.
Yeah.
So I see what I see, Dad.
Yeah, he has great eyes.
That is hilarious.
He has great eyes.
But yeah, like going back to like us.
Okay, yeah.
We could always talk about him because honestly, we're so proud of him. And, he could he still hasn't gone through puberty. So that's a whole
nother.
How old is he? How old is he now?
10.
10.
Okay.
He's 10. He's almost my height.
Wow.
He's a big kid. He's
Yeah,
always
he's
been
big
a
dog.
really big kid.
Wow.
Yeah.
But he has personality.
Yes.
He's funny. You meet him.
Hilarious.
He likes to joke around.
Yeah, joke around. Yeah. Play jokes on you.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah. Very. Yep.
And one thing that I always appreciate about him is that he does look at you and value for your approval. Like he wants to do good for you.
Aw,
Like he
that's
wants you
very
to
sweet.
say like did I do a good job? Like
Aw.
he'll
Mhm.
even like reinforce himself and say like good job, Chauncey, good
Ah.
job.
He'll say it about 30
Yeah.
times, but yeah, that's it. But yeah, he just wants
But
your
that's
approval.
part of
Yeah,
his,
that's
you know,
part of
be-
his exactly.
his condition. You know,
Yeah.
he's
Cool.
just he repeats a lot of things again and again.
Yeah.
But yeah, we always focus on the positive because sometimes when you dwell on a lot of the challenges, it can be very stressful and overwhelming.
Yeah.
And we talk about it every time at night. We always have like a recap.
Yeah,
I feel.
recap when I come back home
And I'm like, honey.
from work.
Yeah, and then he'll give me his opinion, like maybe we need to change it like this, or just do it like this. And I'm like, yeah, but me as an educator, because now I work with children with special needs. I also work with
Okay.
children on the autism spectrum. So now that I do that, and I also do home therapy, which is what they used to do for Chauncey.
Yes.
Oh.
I know the double side of everything. I know it
Yes.
as a parent, and I know it as an educator
Yeah.
or a therapist,
Double
basically.
dose.
Yeah. So.
Which I'm sure those families appreciate so much
Oh.
because
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
it's different of
Um,
having a therapist that does it
That
as a
doesn't have the same-
profession.
Exactly.
However.
Is always around the clock. Like
Yes.
that. I
Yep.
mean, me, if it was, I would be like, oh, your son has, oh, this is awesome.
Yes,
Like,
because they understand.
However-
They
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
Autism is so
it's just,
it is very difficult. So when I go to my families, I don't tell them that I have a child on the spectrum
oh.
because
Because they're not all, because it's not all the same.
it's
Yeah.
not all the same. But a lot of families, they look at you as like, oh, then you're not knowledgeable. Like, how did you have a kid and your kid's not corrected?
Exactly.
How come your
kid
is
not-
Yeah.
corrected?
they would-
Exactly, because they want their
She
kid
would
to
tell
be
me so
fixed.
many
Can you
stories.
fix
Oh my
him?
God, that's, oh.
Yeah.
That's a
Yes.
whole different
That's
conversation for
Exactly.
another time.
Yeah.
But
that-
once I start
Oh,
seeing
that
families
sucks.
that see that, they're like, so can you fix him?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I know that by me telling them, oh, well, I do this too every day, 24 hours a day, it's not going to change their mind. It's
wow,
not
you know,
going
I didn't
to-
even consider that some people
Yeah.
Oh.
view it
No,
that way.
it's-
That's crazy.
It's
Yes.
very difficult. It really is.
Oh.
Yeah.
They say that when you find out that your child is diagnosed with something, they say that families go through a state of mourning.
Yeah, that's true.
That-
That was me.
I was gonna ask you about any instances
And
of
we did.
of the why me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Or
know,
what
like-
did I do? Or like,
Yeah.
then it turns into self blame. Then it turns into.
We were wondering. Yeah.
like
Did
you
y'all do
know,
a genetics test?
You know what's funny? We had a
We did.
genetics test prior to him being born, but that was just because of like my pregnancy issues and everything. That
Oh,
they
yeah,
did
yeah, we did.
they
Yes.
did a genetics DNA.
We did too, but you're talking about
They used the
that's
wrong
not
word.
the
The wrong word.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to find out. Okay.
We did an extensive.
Like,
they
where
went.
did this
they
come
went
from?
and looked at
Okay.
all of our.
Our DNA, and they traced it.
No,
to try to
not
see.
DNA.
Oh, after he was after.
After, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they did that. They did that with me. I don't think
Before.
they did that. Yeah, before.
Yeah.
I saw a genetics
We
count.
Because we weren't
counselor.
sure.
Yeah, we saw genetics.
We weren't sure if it was genetic. Because
They
from-
looked at every chromosome.
yeah.
Oh,
Everyone.
Mhm. No, I did it.
And I
I
studied
did it, but
it.
you didn't do it.
No, I didn't do.
You didn't want to do it.
I don't remember.
You didn't want to do it.
I
I don't
did?
think he wanted. But this was before Chauncey was
I
born.
know. That's what I remember when you did it, but I don't remember
I don't
them
think you
asking
did
me.
it. Oh no, I think you did do it. It was so long ago.
I was about to say,
I
this
know, I
was-
can't even
Let me-
imagine.
Let me
Yeah.
tell you, like that was like minimal.
Yeah. I
remember
like,
when you
and
did
I
it,
remember
though.
the lady was just like, "Oh, everything's fine. You know, we didn't see." She's like, "We just
And
saw."
that's I
Okay.
remember them saying everything is fine. That's why I'm like probably I don't even remember like it was okay, everything's fine, like nothing.
Yeah.
was there.
Because there was that part of me that while waiting for the results, I was like, yo, like, what am I gonna do if the results come back that hey, O'Day, it was your genetics that caused
That-
him to have
yeah.
this, or because when we took it, there was definitely days I'm like, well, I'll be feeling tired and lazy sometimes. Like, could I have it? But we just never checked and knew. You know, I had real bad asthma. I was in the hospital for a while when I was in Guyana. maybe I have it. I was nervous.
Uh-huh.
'Cause I was like, maybe it's me.
Maybe it's you.
And then it was like, if I'm going through this,
Feel
what's
bad.
Vicky thinking?
Well,
Because she was the one that carried him. So maybe she's thinking,
Yeah, I was just
maybe
stuck
it was
on
me.
that. I didn't even care. Like, any test that they did, I'm like, you can find out why. That's not going to change where we are now. Like,
well, that's the thing. You find out the information. Now what you're going to do with it.
right.
You just have to move on and make it better.
True.
Exactly. That's why I'm like,
That's it.
that's not
Exactly.
changing anything.
Exactly.
Yep, you just got to move on and keep it positive and just learn from it. You
Mhm.
can't, it was hard. I just remember, like, we used to say, oh, my God, like, so is he going to go to school? Is he going to go to college? Is he going to have friends?
Yeah.
Are we going to be able to take him to birthday parties?
I know. And then you
Yes.
start to just, because those are things that as
every
parents you
concern.
really worry
Can he have
about.
kids?
Yeah.
What if
Yeah.
Let me
drive
tell
a
you,
car,
babysitting
it's
That whole,
is
like,
not
oh,
easy.
How normal will his life be? Because we're still stuck
Yeah.
on this, wanting our kids to be this quote unquote normal. Like, oh, because we want them to be accepted.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just.
You know how amped I get when I see some people in a Facebook group that we're in post their I remember one woman posted a picture of her son who, for me, it was a big thing. Her son was recruited by some overseas soccer team. I was like, good.
Wow,
Khalil's
yeah.
playing soccer overseas.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
It's
no.
it's very empowering.
Yeah.
Like when you see that, you're
Yeah.
like, wow, like this could be my kid
Yeah.
too. Like
Yeah.
they did
Yes.
it. My kid
Yeah.
can do it too.
Yes.
That's-
I do love hearing stories
Like we
like
watched the
that.
specials on TV with basketball. And,
Oh my God, we
with the
cry.
guy.
We're
Yeah.
like, this is so
Yeah,
amazing.
the kid went to was it Michigan State? It was on
Yeah.
NBA TV. Went to
Oh,
Michigan
yes,
State.
yes, yes.
You saw
yes,
it? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I was like, oh man.
I was like, honey, that's so cool.
And then
I was
recently
like,
a
we
kid
still
from
have
high
time.
school, the kid out of high school got first kid with autism to get drafted to get a
Yeah.
scholarship for the Division I college. Yeah.
That was the one. That was the one that I saw. I
Yeah.
saw
It was
Facebook
online. That
post,
was
yeah.
That is-
that was Facebook. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, oh man. It's like it's natural.
There's
I'm like,
hope. There's hope. It's
Yeah,
got
he
hope.
can
you
do
know,
it. I was like,
those,
we can
yes,
do it. We just gotta
those
keep pushing 'em.
circumstances,
Yep.
it's just like,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
there's
And they
no
have a
there's no
family.
limit. There's no limit.
Yes,
Like
and
there
they're
is
going on
no
a mission. Yeah.
real
None
box.
whatsoever.
Right.
Yes.
So how do you guys make time for yourselves?
Well,
Oh, let me get my notepad out so we could take notes on this.
well, we've been together for it's about to be 15 years. We're not married.
Don't get ideas, okay?
I am all ears right now.
Don't get ideas.
We've been together.
Nice. This is beautiful. This is beautiful.
No, as I
This
heard,
is beautiful.
the first show she played me with you guys was that one. So I'm sitting there watching TV. She's like, oh, here, listen to this. And I was like, I'm watching. I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm listening. Then all of a sudden they start getting into well, what's the way? I'm like, oh.
And when you
go.
turn-
I was like,
He said, "Here we go."
look. I'm like,
The whole time she's like this.
I was
Are
like,
you
you
listening?
hear that? I was like, you heard that?
I could just feel her eyes and just the
Burning a hole on the side of your
I'm like-
face. Like,
I hear him. Let me go to the bathroom real quick. I got to bathroom.
But 15 years, happily together, still going strong.
yes.
Family.
it ain't gonna
most
be happy
definitely.
for you all day.
Oh, most definitely.
Happily for
No,
them.
I totally understand where you're coming from. I feel exactly the same about certain things that you say. But
Screw the other topic. This is a new time.
No.
but it has a huge role in everything that we do now.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
so we were together by 19,
Yes.
20,
Wow.
19, 20
Young
years old in
bucks.
college.
Young.
So
bucks.
we were still learning how to be young adults,
Yeah.
right? You're learning to be young
We're
adults.
trying to find ourselves.
I know.
We're trying to graduate with a degree. That's really what we were trying to do.
Science.
So then I was pregnant by 23, and I graduated while I was still pregnant with Chauncey.
I still
And-
I had
remember.
to go work.
I still remember. So, for everyone listening, she's my sorority sister.
Yes.
And I
Secret.
still, literally, yeah, I heard of. I still remember.
Hey, I got
In
time,
the
man. I got
interest
time,
meeting-
man.
I remember one of my line sisters. They're like, "Jen's pregnant." I'm like, "No, she's not." And she's like, "No, I swear she is. Like she is." I'm like, "No, she's not." And then you graduate. I'm like, "Oh damn, she was pregnant."
Yeah, I think I was probably 5 months, or 5 or 6 months, almost pregnant at that time.
Wow.
And I tried to we actually did
I was so oblivious. I'm like, "No, she
but
not."
you were there. You were there. I was pregnant when you were. We went to one of our Latin dance, Latino. I don't know what it was. One of our Dominican. It was like Dominican Heritage Day or something like that. and we had to like stroll and, you know, we do our thing and stuff. And I remember I was like, oh, I can't do this no more. Like, I was hiding it with my T-shirt and everything.
Because that's what it was. I'm like, she looked totally like every day, like how she looks every day. And I'm like, no, she's pregnant. I notice it. I'm like, I don't notice anything.
It came to a point
'cause
where
at that age, I'm like, I'm not looking for that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so that was hard, right? So we have our sorority life that's very, you know, social, coming out to this, go travel here, go to
very
this.
demanding.
Yeah, and then, you know, then I have my boyfriend who, you know, he also wanted to go out with his friends and go out, do the nightlife, you know, college experience and everything. And now I'm pregnant. Yeah. Now we have to move in together. Now we have to find a place. He has to go to work. He has to start being an adult.
Whole new norm.
What is that? What is
that?
What
right.
is that?
Yep.
So we got an apartment, and you know, like we enjoy being with each other.
Yeah.
That was a plus. The hardest part was having friends who very close to us, who wanted us, who didn't have kids, wanted us to go out all the time, and they felt like we were betraying them because we couldn't do it. Or he would go out at night and I would stay home with the baby late at night, and then I would feel some type of way, like, how come I can't go out?
Yeah.
But I was too tired. I couldn't.
I know. You're like, I physically cannot get up out of here.
I just couldn't,
then I would
you know?
be feeling bad. I'm like, man, I'm out.
I know, and we couldn't go out together.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like,
that's a lot of times they're like, oh, where's the day? I'm like, with the baby.
Somebody gotta watch it.
It ain't gonna be the dog watching them.
Especially,
He might kill her.
Yeah, and especially our friends, they wouldn't go out on a Saturday night. They would go out on a Thursday,
Yeah.
Tuesday night,
Bruh.
Wednesday. And I was like, why can't they go out on a Saturday? Like, you know, on a weekend, like real people do. No, it has to be like in the middle of the week.
Because we was in that working lifestyle. They was still
I gotta
in
wake
school.
up in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I gotta get up.
Well, this boy's gonna wake us up regardless, hungover or not.
Exactly.
Right.
That
And
was another thing.
that is something
another
you
thing.
totally have to like keep in mind. You're like, I'm not gonna feel good if I keep drinking. Like, I'm not gonna feel good, not today, but tomorrow, when my kid is dragging me out of bed to get him things to eat, things to drink, wants to like play the drums on my face while I'm laying in bed. Like, I'm not gonna feel good tomorrow.
Whenever he would go out, I would purposely have Chauncey run in his bed and like just like I was like, go jump on daddy, and he would do it.
I ain't go out all the time now. I went out once in the blue.
Yeah, okay. Trisha caught you a couple times.
Yeah,
he would go out.
Damn.
Well, this is why we got sisters, right?
Yeah,
They keep an eye on all of our men.
Snitching.
Yeah.
Straight snitching.
Yeah, all over. That's
You
all
give him the
right.
look like, yo, you didn't see me. I ain't see you.
We
You
all
ain't see
submit
me.
your photos.
Yes, I got that
And-
text message ASAP.
I knew it too. I already knew. I was like, there we go.
You're like, oh, gotta go home now.
Yeah.
I gotta go, guys. Peace.
Yeah.
Say,
I
you want to
got
go? I'm
eyes
like, no, we ain't gotta go.
everywhere.
We ain't gotta go nowhere. I'm good. I'm good.
And you know, he got it worse because everybody knew him from college. So everyone knew him from before
Yeah.
I was even in a sorority. But yeah, so then we had to learn how to cope with, you know, friendships. And, you know, a lot of couples really use their friendships as like to help them grow.
Yeah.
Foundation.
Like, yeah, it's like a foundation because you need that person to vent to.
Yes.
But we've learned that our friends weren't going to understand. Whenever we would vent to our friends, they were just like, oh, leave him. He ain't, da, da, da. You know, like, you could leave him. You could do this all by yourself. There's so
You're
many
like,
single moms. And I'm like, no, not really.
Oh, you going that? Oh, that one. Okay. All right. Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying.
No, but
that
it's true.
in
No.
the beginning,
No. It's true because when you're in a relationship at a certain level and your friends, they're just not at that stage of life yet. Their
They view it
words
differently.
of advice is like not realistic.
It
It's
wasn't.
not realistic to you. It may be realistic to them at that time because that's all they can see. But life hasn't put them through
challenges.
enough challenges
yeah.
to give you advice that could really help you.
And at the time,
And it's true. It's true.
And you know, you love them. You love them and you appreciate for them being there for that moment in life. But as time went on, the two of us, we just grew as just people.
Yeah.
And
as a unit too.
yeah, and we
Start
knew,
to-
and we finally came to realize, like, it's really not worth trying to live that life anymore. Like, our life is
wasn't.
our family.
Yes.
And
This
we
is-
have so much fun. Like,
It took
us.
a couple years to really sink in and be like, you know what, this this is it. This is my family. This is what it
We
is.
come
Like,
first.
yeah, exactly. This is what it is. We don't have to, it's not about, how it was before. Like, oh, this is what life about. We're going out, have fun with our friends. And like, yeah, you can do that, but this is the family first. You still can,
You can
enjoy
still
your
have
friends.
fun.
Yeah, you still can
and-
do that. And then we found different ways, we
Right.
can do that. We don't always have to go out. We could bring our friends over to the house. You come,
Right.
hey, come hang out with us. Or we got the kids. Hey, you don't have to go out all the time,
Right.
So.
And that's the learning curve too. Like it does take some time for it to snap into place.
Yeah. And
Because some people just think like, that's it.
yeah,
it's
but
all good. And
also-
you're like, no,
Yeah.
girl, it takes work because we're
No,
people. We're
exactly.
human.
Yeah. It
Yes.
also takes two. You
It
know,
takes
two,
it
yeah.
takes two.
You
You,
gotta
have
be-
to meet halfway. Your friends, if they really are your friends, then they'll meet you halfway.
Yeah.
You know, it can't always be the nightlife. Obviously, that nightlife for us, it's very hard for us to
exactly.
do. We'll do the early morning,
We did, yeah,
like
that was
outing. You
yeah,
know,
we call it in
but
the afternoon. Yeah, you come
Anytime
over.
somebody's like, yo, you want to go out? I'm like, you want to go brunch?
Yeah, lunch. Yeah.
Brunch?
So eat.
but it is a really cool
Yeah.
time though. Like
Yeah.
we learned that
Hey,
You-
early is the best time for us.
yeah
We learned that. Like, oh man, doing things
We-
early in the morning. Ooh,
yeah.
nobody around. Like, oh my goodness.
Nice and quiet.
That-
yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
That is O'Day's First of all,
Yes.
I
okay.
like going to the
so
movies
you know,
at
you know
9
how we
a.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Home
you know how
by
many
12.
times
Well,
O'Day has
yeah.
dragged me to the movies at 9 a.m. to watch some
Yes,
Marvel.
comic, Marvel, whatever,
Yes.
and I'm just sitting there like,
The whole theater's to
why
yourself.
am I here?
It's like you and
Why
like
am
10
I
other
here?
people.
Peace and quiet. Yeah.
Yes. Let me tell
By
you.
12 o'clock, you home and
Just
just chilling.
recently, we started going to the movies at 7, but
Yep.
not because
No, not that. That's on the Tuesdays only. Cause
right Tuesday. You know,
Oh,
we get
yeah,
the
the
AMC.
$5
Yes,
2 days.
$5
Shameless plug for
yes.
AMC. $5 2 days. You want it?
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
Tuesdays,
$5
Tuesdays.
Tuesday. Only
Wait,
Tuesdays. Only
wait,
Tuesday.
wait, what?
$5.
$5 Tuesday.
$5
So if you're an
tickets.
AMC Stubs member,
Oh, no,
you
no.
Nah,
get.
there you go.
Yeah,
I'm sure I've signed up before, but I just never followed
Nah,
up.
it's,
Oh,
it's,
we go
it's
to the
free.
movies a
Well,
lot.
I paid it
We
$15.
love
It's on
going to the
$15 for
movies.
$15 for the year.
Okay.
I can't ever remember a movie after I've watched it.
But
so
you know
I'm
what?
not a movie
So
person.
these are things as a couple
Yeah,
we
we're a movie.
said
Yeah, okay.
we're like, look, we love going out to eat. We
Yes.
love going to the movies. How are we going to implement
Those
this
were
in our family?
challenges with Chauncey in the beginning.
And
Those were big
Andre.
challenges. Okay.
Andre's a piece of work too.
Yeah. Okay.
He's a piece of
yeah,
work.
yeah, it was. It was.
He's a piece of work.
Andre, something else. That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
That's Andre.
He can have his own little
Next episode.
Yeah,
Next episode.
Andre, something else.
But when the two of them together, we were like, no, we're gonna still go to eat our breakfast out. We're still gonna go do our things, and it was hard. The two of we would get frustrated, and we're like, all right, who's gonna step out if he acts up? If he
Yeah.
acts up, we are leaving.
Yeah.
yeah.
But one of us has to still finish and eat our food.
yeah.
You know, so we would have to have a game plan. So the two of us, we had to constantly communicate.
Always.
You know, and then come
Right
with a
before-
compromise. I feel like every time we always had because we never fully agree on something, but we meet halfway.
Yeah.
Like we'll say, okay, fine, we're gonna do this. I was like, but if this happens, we better make sure that this is how we follow through with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to learn a lot that way. When we added Andre, when Andre became part of our family, then that was another challenge. And we're like, we still can't stop. We got to keep
Yeah.
going.
Can't stop, won't stop.
No.
Yeah, we couldn't.
You know, we're like, we love going to the movies. We're gonna make sure that we make this work. We
Yeah.
sit at the end
Cool.
of the aisle.
And it's tough in the beginning. It's always tough in the beginning. That's what I feel like a lot of people miss too. Like they think that it's just gonna be like, oh, it's just like once or twice. But I'm sure like, you know, after a few times it'll snap into place. Like, no, it's constant work. And
gotta
I feel
work,
like
yeah.
a lot of people give up when it's
It's
When
easy
it
to
doesn't
give
come,
up.
when
Yeah.
it doesn't come naturally, like, oh, if it's not going to happen, oh, okay, it's not.
yeah,
to make it. No,
yeah,
you gotta.
yeah.
you
They
gotta
think
put the
everything
time, you gotta
comes.
work.
It's
No.
just gonna evolve into that. Like, no, you gotta
No.
work at it.
No,
Yeah, you
exactly.
have
gotta
to.
put time in. You gotta work.
We put time into everything, and a lot of the times too, even with when it comes to just understanding what Chauncey's needs were, he didn't understand. He didn't understand in my education. In my education like terms
Yeah.
basically. And I would tell him like, you need to come to the IEP meetings. So because he was able to because he worked in evenings, he was available in the
Yeah, so
mornings.
in the mornings, yeah.
And I would have him come to all the IEP meetings. He's like, babe, do I really have to go? I was like, you need to go.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
to hear what the teachers are saying about your child. You need to hear this stuff. And
I
every
learned
time
a lot
Yeah,
doing that
he would
a
sit
lot.
quietly at these
And I would
meetings.
just listen.
Like 8
observe,
people are
listen.
sitting there talking to you
Wow.
about your child. Oh yeah, there's a lot of people at these meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and they're dropping information. And you can walk out there crying.
Mm.
You can walk
Mhm.
out there feeling wow, like empowered, or you can walk out there like I freaking hate everybody and their mom right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because they're talking about your kid.
Yeah.
They're talking about your
Mhm.
kid. So he would sit at these meetings, and he's like, but wait, what do I say? I was like, you say nothing. Let me talk. I will handle all this stuff. And I know,
She sure does.
and I just go in there with my notepad, with all my information, exactly what I want for him, and and I just tell him, I was like, I need you to be my ears. You listen to everything that they say. So if I don't catch something that they say, then this is what you do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he was like, all right.
Damn,
He
that's a plan right there.
Teamwork.
Every
Yeah.
time,
Teamwork made the
That's
dream work.
how you
Yeah.
know we're gonna have to hit them up when it's time for us to sit with teachers, because
No,
Teamwork.
seriously, we prep ourselves. I was like, I go, okay, honey, this is what I'm going to say. If I don't say this, remind me, okay? And he's like, all right, anything else? I'm like, yeah. I was like, this is what I want to do. I'm like, and if they don't mention this, and he'll kick me on the bottom of the table. Like, if
Oh,
honestly,
Like,
if somebody says something
Number 4,
crazy.
number 4. You missed
yeah.
number 4.
Yeah.
Yep. Like
Yeah.
somebody say something, I'm like,
You're like,
uh-huh.
No, but the worst when he like starts squeezing, like he starts pinching me like this, and I'm like, honey, stop it. Oh,
So do you have like levels, like all right, that was something, it's little, let me
Yes.
tap you on the foot, or like
Yeah.
say something now, let me pinch you.
Yeah. Oh man, the IEP
No,
meetings
he does this.
are-
He
oh.
steps on my foot real hard, and it
Yeah,
goes
and I'm
like
like,
it's like a large, like a huge imprint, and I was like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah, the IEP meetings are like, oh man.
Do you guys know what IEP meetings are?
you
No,
know what's funny? And
I've
again,
Oh,
heard it
okay.
mentioned,
Yeah, we got
but only because of like when you would post about some. So I've heard the mention of it, but I don't know what they entail.
yeah.
An IEP is an individualized education plan. So it's specifically done at school for your child. So it is their full-on plan.
What they're gonna do with your
academics,
child for the year.
Oh wow!
And
Yeah.
their goals.
Here's
So
how-
Yes,
goals
goals,
and
exactly.
objectives are all going to be
Because I'm
on
going to
it.
embarrass myself. Worked at a college. Worked in higher ed for, 11, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Always knew the term. Always knew the letters.
IEP.
Ask me if I ever knew what it
They
meant.
don't know what it is.
I work closely with our counseling
But it's
center,
crazy,
Project
right?
Connections.
Yeah.
But
If it doesn't,
Yeah.
basically, if it doesn't, what is it, like involve you? If it doesn't have any type of impact on you,
probably wouldn't know too
then
much about it.
you wouldn't know about
Yep.
it. You've heard of the term. You've heard of these things. There's so many things. You probably heard of sensory processing disorder. You've probably heard of like sensitivity or sensory needs.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it? Like
Right.
people don't know. So these are things
And it's
that
so true. And if it doesn't impact you,
if it doesn't impact you, you kind of just like, oh yeah, I know that. Oh, I've heard of that. Like, oh, like, oh, I've heard of rare diseases, but what about it? Like,
Yeah.
what specifics about it?
You know what that brings in mind to me? My sister worked for a pharmacy. Not pharmacy, sorry. She worked for a pharmacist company, like a yeah. So
Oh.
she worked in the
Sound like some
department.
illegals.
that-
No,
no.
pharmacist.
I'm like, what do you call them?
Like,
She, was
don't-
she worked in street
Don't
pharmaceuticals.
tell them
No,
nobody.
But
So she was
worked,
in marketing for pharmaceuticals.
yeah,
Okay,
she worked
okay.
for a pharmaceutical company. She worked for a
Yeah.
pharmaceutical company, and she actually worked really close with their kinds of a growth hormone, whatever. And it wasn't until we had our baby that's when she was like, oh, I've heard of that at my job. And then it started to like really stick.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
oh, and look, this is what we learned at my job. Oh, and did
Yeah.
you know you
and
can do
then
this,
you start
this?
getting all this information.
Yes,
You
but
Yeah.
prior to that, I mean, she, she's at her work. She's like, okay, this is this. But it's true. It's not. It doesn't really connect
But that's why it's
fully
important.
until it impacts you. And she's like, oh, look, this is what I learned. You should do this. I'm like,
That's why
oh.
I'm a huge advocate in people in speaking up.
Yes.
You need to
Yes.
speak up and say, like, what are your needs? What are your challenges? What is it that's going on? Because us as a couple, if we never really spoke up about the difficulty that we had in that day with Chauncey, we wouldn't know how to help him. We would kind of just brush it off, and he would just go on with his day and keep repeating the same behaviors without fixing it. I would tell him, like, honey, shower time. Literally, it's like me showering with him.
Yeah.
Like, I would have my hair wet. I would be like, and he's like, babe, how is that possible? I'm like, honey, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, we need to fix this because it's hurting my back. It's hurting, like you're reaching over. Now my kid is 10. He's my height. He's a big kid.
Yeah, that's killing you when you gotta scrub a baby in the tub.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm like, oh.
I'll pull him in with me, and I'll just be like, yo, just do you while I shower.
Well,
and then we just leave them there.
We used to
Yeah,
do that until
that.
we had 2.
Yeah.
Then when you had 2.
Yeah.
Like, nah,
This tub
yeah,
ain't big
That's
enough for the
what I'm
three of
saying.
us.
No.
Oh God, that's
Something.
the stories, man. Oh my God. But yeah, so that's where you need to speak up and you need to say something, especially to your partner. I feel that your partner is going to be your number one supporter.
Absolutely.
to help you. And I always say he always does my behind the scenes stuff. Like I'll do all the teaching. I'll implement all these things and I'll say, look, these are the things that he needs in order to reach to this level. But Eugene, what he does a lot of the physical stuff because Chauncey's a big kid. And half the time I can't be running after him and grabbing him. When he was little, that boy was so heavy. I'm like, honey, you need to get him. I'm like, go get him. Like, go now. And he'll be like, all right, I got him. I'll hold him. And he's like, nope, Chauncey, nope. You're sitting here. You're doing this, And that's how we communicate it. And that's how I feel like we always say we're a team. At the end of the day, we just look at each other and we just give each other a high five. We're like, we made it through the day.
We made it. One more day.
We did it.
We're like, we
Exactly.
did it.
Everyone's still alive.
Yep.
The house ain't burned
We're like,
down.
We
yep.
did it.
Yeah.
We're
That
That's
is-
awesome.
That
Yep.
is key. You have to, if you're not on the same page, it's not gonna work.
We
You
have a lot
to
of our
be.
powwows in the car
Mm.
with
Yes.
the kids. We're like, are you gonna say it or am I gonna say it? I'm like, no, you gonna say it. I was like, I'll back you up, right? So we're in the front and we turn around and we look back at them and we're like, all right, guys,
Here's
this
the
is
game.
what we're gonna do.
Listen, this is what we're gonna do.
Like a coach with a drawing board. I'm going to
Yeah.
need you to go this way.
Yep.
We're going to go this way. We're going to all meet back
Yep.
right here.
And you got one of them going, mm-hmm.
Are we all on the same page? Hands in.
I was like, if you do not do that, like when we go to the grocery store, I was like, now listen, you walk with us. If you go into a different aisle or if you decide to start running or doing anything else, you're not getting your cookies.
You on your own.
You're not getting
You're
your
not
cookies.
getting your cookies. We will not buy you cookies. You will not get no brownies. So do not do this. And they're like, okay, mommy. Okay, daddy.
Let's go.
And we're like, all right, you get 3 chances. Like we'll tell them. We're like, and then we'll
marking
say,
them down.
we're marking them down, and we'll go through the aisles, and they act up X number 1. And then they're like, oh no. Da, da, da.
You show you the sheet like,
I got
look,
two
you got,
X's.
you got 2 left.
Yeah. So
Oh, Andre again? 1 left.
Red, yellow
You see the
card,
eyes,
red
yeah.
card.
You see the eyes like, oh man. And then Chauncey, like you said, Chauncey's a jokester. He's like, oh, you
man.
got 1 left. Okay. Chauncey's like, okay. Andre, come over here, come do this. I was like, oh, and he's like, oh, no cookies for Andre. Nope, I get the rest. I get them.
Damn.
He be
Chauncey
setting
set
them
him
up.
yeah,
Yep.
oh, he
Strategic.
does.
Yep.
He does.
Yes.
And they'll
Yeah.
team up. They'll team up and be like, yo, guy, listen, I got 2 strikes.
Yes. Yes.
I broke that glass. Can you just take that L for me?
Well, yeah.
And-
Now we gotta separate the X's.
Ah.
Now they
now we
each
gotta
get their
separate 'em.
own.
Yeah.
Now it's like, all
Yep.
right, Chauncey, you got your own 3, and
Yep.
Andre, you got your own
Oh
3.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
one thing you always hear before you have a child, or people say it takes a village. And then when you have a child like us, I realize, oh,
You're like, where's
they're
your
right.
village?
No, I realize it does take a village. Then there's that too. Where this village that y'all was talking about?
Yeah.
But
For real.
Okay.
you definitely learn, like, yes, it does take a village. But then also having a child with a condition, you realize how important that village is, how
Yes.
beneficial
Yeah.
having that village actually be there. You
Yeah.
realize how much more that statement is true.
Yes.
Yeah, but even saying, where is that village? Because in
Yeah.
the beginning you feel isolated.
Yeah.
You feel alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We felt
Yeah,
that
definitely.
nobody understood us.
Yeah.
Play dates were non-existent for us.
Mm-hmm.
Babysitting was non-existent.
Mhm.
We had babysitters come in and quit the next day because
Wow.
they couldn't do it.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
claimed that they were special ed certified and all types
Yeah,
of stuff.
Man, thinking back to the
It was so heartbreaking. I had to leave my job. I left my full-time teaching job and became an aide. Miraculously, thank God I did, because that's how I learned more about children on the spectrum and working more in homes. But I remember getting a call from the neighbor saying that my kids locked the babysitter outside the house.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
And then the babysitter never told me. Like, I found out actually from, the neighbor was the one who called me to tell me that stuff. And, had to let that person go. Babysitters with the bus, like just communication, transportation.
Transportation.
They left our son one time on the bus. He didn't arrive to school. That was horrific. I got a phone call from the principal saying that your son is missing.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that actually
Oh,
happened
my
almost a year
goodness.
ago.
Yeah.
In 2 more weeks, it would be a year since that
Oh,
happened.
my
That was that
goodness.
whole thing was just.
I just saw a video on Facebook of a dad who I think it was like the third time.
Yeah, that they had
that-
left.
and yo,
It-
he
yeah.
was
Yeah.
I felt
Third
it.
Well,
time.
we
I
got
felt
the
it.
phone
Wow.
call 2 weeks ago saying, not the phone call, I got an email. Now, I'm at work, I'm also working with children. I
this was
can't
just
be
recent.
checking. It was
Okay.
just recent.
Yeah.
I couldn't check my emails, often. So I just happened to have that downtime at that moment. Looked at my email. My son's teacher sent an email at 9:30 saying that I just wanted to let you know that Chaunceys bus still hasn't arrived. I was like, not again. This cannot happen again. So I automatically text him. And, this is, again, where communication and teamwork happens. And I'm like, honey, because he could have easily been like, babe, why don't you call them and do all this stuff. But going back to the last time I was a mess. I was a mess.
I can't even imagine.
I was in my principal's office and my vice principal was in there. And I was crying. I couldn't talk. They were crying with me. Because they were like, your son is missing. And I was like, they don't know where he is.
Oh my goodness.
They don't know where he is. And I was like, and I'm like, oh my God, my poor, 9-year-old kid that can't really communicate and can't tell you, is he scared? Is he somewhere? Is he in a lot? Where did they take him? Did they kidnap him?
I know. Oh my God, just the things that run. I can't.
We had no idea. So I was like, honey, you need to call them and you need to find out. Go call this school and call the bus company. Where did they leave him? So, yeah.
So you text me. Tell me what you text me.
What did I say?
You say you
She's like,
what you just
before
said.
I kill somebody at that place,
You
I
straight
need
up
you
said,
to call.
You text me saying Chauncey. Oh, I get an email saying Chauncey didn't arrive at school yet. That's it. And I was like,
I'm gonna need more
What the
backstory.
fuck? I
I
was
need
like,
more
whoa,
detail.
whoa. I was like, whoa. I was like, what? Okay, you just said it so calmly and plain, like in the text. I shouldn't be,
did. But I kind of was only because I didn't have time because I was in
Yeah, but
transition.
you told me that after. So then I'm like, I was like, nah, wait a minute. She's too calm to be right now. I was like, wait a minute. Is this? I was like, hold up. Let me call the bus company. So I asked them. I said, hey, did you guys arrive at school? Wait a minute. Let me see. Oh no, they didn't. So I'm like.
Now it's 11.
Hey, I'm like, wait a minute.
It's
Wait,
11.
what?
It's
No.
11:20. So I didn't get to look at my email until 2 hours later. That's when I notified
So when
him.
you called
So
at
I'm-
11:20,
so I'm
the
at
bus
home.
was still not at school.
Yeah, so what? Like, let me explain it everything. So I'm at home. I'm like, wait, I'm putting my coat on. I'm like, these motherfuckers.
You're like, keep
This
talking.
nigga about to get. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, hold up. So I'm like, hold up. So what do you mean? It's like y'all not at. You know they didn't go to school. He said, let me just see. So let me see. I was like, yeah. You find out. So I'm calling her now 3 times, ringing 3 times. I was like, okay, she must be busy. I was like, all right. Then they finally call me again. So I'm like, yeah, what's going on? Oh, we had a flat tire, but they changed it, and they're at school now. I was like, they're at school. I was like, how do you know? Well, hold on. I was like, nah.
Send me
I was like, nah.
Send me a picture.
Yeah, I was like, nah. I was
Because
like,
I
wait.
told him, I was like, find out. And he goes, babe, they said that he's there. I'm like, what time did he arrive? Because I didn't even get an email from his teacher.
Updating
Oh,
you.
man.
Yeah.
Because you send the email like that, you better
Yeah.
follow up.
Exactly.
Oh,
So
man.
so going back to like how it takes a village, right? So this is where I feel that you need to build a rapport with all these people that are
Yes.
involved with your
Exactly.
child.
Absolutely.
That is huge.
And that is huge because
Yes.
this is how we were able to find out all these things, and no one felt offended. And I told him, I said, I'm not mad at you, but because we had this incident last year, you need to update me. You need to write me an email, and after you write me an email, you need to call me and tell me.
You got the bus driver number, the aide number.
We
all
got
aides
everybody's
on the bus.
number.
You got
Absolutely.
everybody's
I
numbers.
know?
agree.
So this
So-
is why I say, I'm like, it does take a village, but you also need to build that relationship with
Yes.
everybody.
Build that
And you
village.
need
Exactly.
you need to tell them, like, it doesn't come quick. All of a sudden, this group of people, they just don't miraculously show up at your door.
Absolutely. Yes.
You need to tell them and say, hey, listen, as much as you're invested in my child, I'm invested in my child, and I want to learn from you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you need to respect these people. You need to, the same way they come into your home and they're respectful. Now, I've turned away a lot of people because I'm like, this person doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. I would tell him, I'm like, I'm sorry. Can we bring somebody who's more knowledgeable that knows how to handle my child?
You could tell
And-
right away, especially with the ABA, with the therapist that would come to the house.
Yeah.
That,
So
they were nervous, and you were like, okay, we don't know.
maybe they were
probably.
they could have been nervous because I was there. But, like, again, I don't disclose that I know how to do this. I try not to do that because it is a little intimidating to others. But I guess they kind of realize it once they see me interacting with him.
Yeah.
They're like, oh.
We wanted the seasoned vets. We didn't want nervous. That was our thing.
The
But-
newbies.
Yeah, we didn't want no new. No.
Because then it turned out that I would have to teach these.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
when-
not-
and when
that's
we
not
saw-
what they're
When I
there
saw
for.
that, I was like, no. We
Yeah.
gotta stop this.
So we build a lot of relationships, a lot of networking through each other. So, and I ask questions. I'll tell them like, hey, listen, I'm looking for a gym for Chauncey or like a team that he can join, just to do on the weekends. And they'll say, oh yeah, well I know so-and-so who runs this Challenger League for children, with special needs or whatever at this town. Why don't you come and do this? And I'm like, perfect. So that's how I network. You get that information and you spread it around to everybody else.
Yeah.
And those people, they love you for it because, you value what they have to, what they put into your child.
Yeah.
And that's how you create your village.
Yes, because that is so true. Again, I feel like a lot of people just assume that everything it will just come.
It'll
No.
fall into
No.
place.
Yeah,
No.
No.
You definitely need a squad.
It's time.
Yeah. And you need like at times you need to build that squad.
You need
Yes.
to build
It's
it.
not going to just happen
No,
for you. You
it
need to
doesn't just
build it.
happen.
Well, our first
Yeah.
You need to
autism
be
walk.
active.
Our first autism walk, it was just literally my parents, their best friends,
Yeah.
One of my friends,
A couple of our friends.
and that was it.
Yeah.
It was like probably not even 20 people.
Now, when you say your first autism walk,
Yes.
Yeah.
this isn't just you attending an autism walk. Was this your?
Our team.
Oh no.
So
Yeah.
Oh,
we
your team, your
created,
team, okay.
Yeah.
we created our team, Chaunceys crew, based off
Okay.
of everything. We created our own T-shirts. We did, we didn't know. I had no idea what to expect out of this. I never went to one.
Yeah.
So when we went, I was like,
Huge.
this
The one at the
is so
Giant
cool.
Stadium, right? That
Yeah.
was the first one. Yeah.
MetLife.
MetLife. Yeah.
MetLife, and there's so many resources out there, camps.
Yes.
Not everything is free, but there are certain things that
Yeah.
are free. But you have to do research, and if you don't go to these things and you're always hiding at home, you're never going to find out.
You're not gonna broaden your horizons. You're never gonna.
But always go out with somebody. Like
Yeah.
me, I couldn't go out without him. I'm like, honey, I need you to come with me to this place because I couldn't roll with the two of them by myself.
Yeah.
Oh my God. If you guys, if I had like a camera crew following me, they would, it is insane. It is insane. So like I said, he does a lot of like behind the scenes stuff because he would hold one kid while I hold the other kid or go and find out this information prior to going to this event.
Yeah.
Yeah. Research.
Yeah, do our research. So when we went to our first autism walk, I felt like it was just a great opportunity for us to branch out and see how these other families have these large groups of support systems.
Yeah.
And we said
Yeah.
we could do this
We
too.
saw a lot of families had it. It was like, God, man, there's a lot of people wearing yellow shirts. It's like but it's all from that one group. We were like, wow, we had our little
And it's
10,
all because
15,
they all talk.
but
They talk
yeah.
about their child. They don't hide their child. They don't hide their child's disabilities. They embrace it.
They built their village.
Yeah,
Exactly.
They built it up.
totally built their
Exactly.
village.
So-
When we had our second walk, last year,
Yeah.
we had like
had a
what,
lot more.
50 people.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
50
awesome. That's
Like-
great
people
growth.
that
Nice.
yeah, and this time people were more knowledgeable about what autism was. People knew our kid a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
and it just feels good when you have that
Absolutely.
that support system.
Mm-hmm.
Even you guys like looking at the Instagram stuff that that I post, and just knowing you, Vicky.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear that people are actually, you don't have to be looking at it all the time,
Right.
but at least you know it's there.
Yeah.
So if you bump into a friend, you're like, oh, I know this girl
She
that
could probably help
Yeah.
you.
She
Like,
can
and
help
that's what
you.
it
Exactly.
really is all about. Like,
Yes.
just getting yourself out there and being able to offer support. Like, even if you can't, but just set someone in the direction to get.
That might need it.
Yes.
Exactly. So,
Yes.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I know we touched on just about a lot.
Yeah.
I know.
But-
I
but-
think this is
I'm
like,
like, we all
I
over.
know.
I know.
No, I
sorry.
don't think
But
it's
it's
all
good.
over.
It's
I
great.
think
It's
this
great.
is great.
Okay,
This
okay.
is
But,
awesome.
but definitely one thing I want to, I guess, get your advice on, opinion on before we go is
Yeah.
Okay.
that whole thing of you have two children.
Mhm.
You had your second child. Did your second child, does he or she have is he or she with a child with autism?
No.
It's your
No.
first child, right?
But
No.
he has impulsivity and ADHD.
Okay. Now, one thing people always ask us, of course, when are you gonna have a second child? When are you gonna give Kalel a brother or sister? One thing I have said is that and Vicky and I have talked about this. There is that concern of, will our second child have
the same, yes.
have the same condition.
Yeah, we definitely,
What will that be like? Or our second child doesn't have the condition. He or she now will be a child with a brother with a condition. What toll will that take on them?
It's very scary.
Will they embrace it in a positive way? Will they embrace it in a negative way? Will they embrace Kalel because their brother is quote unquote different?
Yeah.
So you have a child that is a child with, I'm trying to make sure I get it right, a child with autism and a child that doesn't have autism.
Yeah.
What's that like? I mean, or what advice would you have for any family that's having that those same questions?
We still doing that now, right? Figuring that out with Andre.
Yeah, so I do ask Andre. Well, he's a very inquisitive boy. So Andre will say like, well, it's not fair. How come Chauncey gets to do this and I don't get to do that? And you know, I have to explain it, and I'm very honest with him, and I'll say, well, Andre, Chauncey has his special challenges, and these are the things that he does. I said, but you can do them easy. So Chauncey just needs a little bit more help, especially when we're not around. We always tell Andre, and we say, Andre, you need to watch out for your brother. Yeah. You need to make sure that if someone's not understanding what he wants, you know what he wants.
You gotta jump in.
Yeah, you know that this is what he needs. And he's like, yeah, Mom, like if he wants some chicken nuggets or McDonald's, he's like, yeah, I know what he wants. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, exactly, Andre. I was like, and if he gets upset, you already know what happened, okay? I'm like, and you jump in. Like I feel like every day it's always like training. Yeah. Like we're always like embedding it in him, and we're telling him what Chauncey does, like homework, for example. Yeah. Andre's in 2nd grade. Oh, why doesn't Chauncey get homework? And I'm always here doing homework all the time. And I'm like, Andre, Chauncey has homework. Chauncey has a lot of work to do at school. He does a lot of that stuff at school. I was like, you're lucky that you get to take that stuff home and I can help you. So I was like, we have to help Chauncey with other things. He's like, oh yeah, like taking a shower. We have to help him in getting himself dressed. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. I was like, there are different things that he has to learn that you know how to do by yourself.
Right.
So it's a lot. It's a lot to.
He's getting it though. He's definitely understanding it.
Or even like people always ask us, like, when is the girl coming? Are you having a?
Oh,
like, are you gonna raise it?
Exactly.
And honestly, you know, as much as we would, we would say we're like, yeah, seriously. But we would love to have another child, but honestly, it's a lot.
We good.
Yeah, we are. I'm very content with my boys. We have a system. It's working for us. And I always say I will adopt anybody's child, anybody's daughter. They could come over. They could hang out.
Look at his face, like
not adopt legally. You know,
I'll let them in my house for a couple hours.
She's like, and then
send her
and send them home.
Yeah, okay, all right, yeah, that's
yeah.
Right.
No, but
you're enjoying your sleep. Like,
trying
to start that over again.
Oh yeah, we can't go backwards.
I don't want to do that.
I can see Kalel's future brother or sister being like, how come Kalel gets candy 3 times a day? It's like, those are his pills.
Yeah, like, trust me.
Exactly.
They taste horrible.
Yeah, you don't want these.
But it's true. Like, how do you differentiate?
Like, how do you know this?
It's true. You always have to think about how does it affect them.
I'll tell you. I know why how they taste.
From out of trial, or
no,
are you out there popping Kalel's pills?
No, I don't know. Because he had one in his mouth, and he I don't know, while he was talking, it fell out of his mouth, and I picked it up with my finger, and it was already wet. And I put it back in his mouth, and then I didn't even think about it. And I was just like this, and I was like, oh, Jesus. And he just eats them. He's like,
yeah, takes them out of our hand. There's definitely times
he
when
just takes them right out, and he's like,
aw.
There's definitely times where
are you?
I'll be giving him a shot. I look at the needle. I was like, does this hurt him? And I'm like,
it is the thing.
Nah.
You have to close one eye and hold it like against a dark background just to see it. You're like, oh, okay, I see the needle.
But I'm always wondering, if I was to stick myself, I want to feel what he's feeling. I'm like, nah. One of his cousins.
My cousin pricked herself on the bottom, like, because she had to unscrew the needle.
Yeah.
And while she was holding it, you don't think when you hold something from the bottom, it's closed. But she didn't think
open,
about it, and it pricked her, and she was like, my arm went numb for like a minute. Because it's growth hormone. So her body didn't know what that was.
Arm starts swelling up. She mad strong.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right. So I got
She was
that
like,
good-
I thought I was going crazy when it happened, so I didn't say anything. I'm like,
Oh, no.
I'm like, so now you know, don't
Yeah,
touch it like
don't
that.
touch it.
That's
That's like the EpiPen. Does he need an EpiPen?
That's
No,
what
but it looks
that's what
like an
looks
EpiPen.
Yeah, because they say some EpiPens you can hold the tip, and then some of them they're like, don't hold the end of it.
But his looks like a pen, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, his looks like an EpiPen. It's just shorter. His EpiPens
But
are
Vicky said
longer.
that, it reminded me of a joke that one of his doctors said, but then that reminded me of how important, like, our doctors are part of his village, you know? That
Absolutely.
we
That's
know them
right.
now, we have a good reputation or good
That's
rapport
right.
with them, but they definitely are part of his village. Like you said, the teachers, the family members, the educators.
Yeah.
So many people have been a part of Khalil's his 2 years, his journey so far, our journey.
Yeah.
Like you said, you
And
have.
they also want to know more.
They want
Yes.
They
to
want to
yeah.
know more
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's not just okay, goodbye and go. They want to know like how are you guys coping and how
Yeah.
are you guys dealing
Yeah.
with it, and they appreciate that. You know, it's just knowing like the total end of it of everything. Like,
Yeah.
So what was the result of it?
Listen, you guys have taught us a
I
lot.
know. You guys.
I'm sure we have listeners who are now like,
Oh,
like
good.
they just wow.
yeah,
we
no,
said
that's
a lot,
so true.
But we only touched upon like
Yeah, it was
certain
only a
things.
little
Exactly.
bit. I said
Barely-
just a little bit.
Everyone listening is like, yo, that was so much. You're like,
Yeah, for us, I'm like,
I'm
yo,
gonna need
this
10
is
more
like,
episodes.
this is like the most.
It's a lot.
This is, to me is like the most I've learned about like real life impact
Mm-hmm.
of a child with autism.
Mhm.
So
I
it.
love how you said that.
I know. I'm
You
like,
said it
I
real
gotta.
good.
Because
Yeah.
you know why? Because it just makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we say things because that's what we hear people say, but that just makes sense. Like
I don't even like hearing people say rare disease. I'm like, no, my son has a condition. Like,
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
term-
yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not
Yeah.
a disease. Like he's
Yeah.
not gonna. Well, I mean, he could die because of it, but
Oh.
that's like on super carelessness.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like we're just gonna forego all
Now that you
medicine
know.
kind of
Right.
thing. Like, so that's it's true. I do have it is known as rare disease, but I totally see
You're
that
like, oh, yeah,
changing.
come
Somebody's
on.
gonna be like, it's a condition.
Like first of all,
It ain't
condition.
no
Yeah.
disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for those who are interested in, like, I know earlier
Oh,
on,
yes.
earlier on you mentioned your where to find you, but once again, remind them where they can find you and get more information.
Yeah. So
Or maybe join the
on-
walk if they still can.
How they can join
absolutely.
Chaunceys crew?
Yeah, you could join
Yeah.
Chaunceys crew. So I'm on Trailblazer Mom. So
On Instagram,
On
Twitter.
not Twitter.
Just
no,
Instagram?
Just
Yeah, I'm like,
Instagram.
who uses that?
Nah, I don't use
Yeah,
Twitter.
I don't even use
Tell them where they
Nah,
can find you on
nah, nah.
MySpace.
Oh God.
There's a few people still
Mi
there.
gente.
Me gente.
Oh, hell.
Totally random for those who are listening. I was just hearing on the radio that for whatever reason, I don't know if it was planned or not planned or just cause of time, MySpace pretty much lost like
A
not
bunch
lost,
of
like-
music.
no, music, photos, everything.
Oh
If you,
damn!
like,
I actually
stuff-
still have pictures
I don't
on
know
it.
what my
Stuff
password
yeah,
is.
Bruh.
Oh my God, I have no
So
idea.
if you had stuff there from back in the day, you know,
Oh, maybe I should go check it.
that
It's
audio
gone.
that went with "Yo, it's so day, welcome to my page." That's all gone.
Oh, I don't even know. I don't even know what that thing looked
Well,
like.
yeah.
Should have been gone years
I
ago.
know.
Oh, it was. It was.
So where can they find you and find out more information?
So,
once
yes,
again,
you could find me on Instagram, Trailblazer Mom.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you'll just see stuff on me posting about my son, about things that we have to do. Sometimes we'll post like little fun outings that we do, things that we're working on with him right now, which is him cutting his pancakes. As
Yeah.
crazy as like easy as that sounds.
we're working on
pancakes.
socks. We're working on socks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a big
we
one.
did that too. Yeah.
That's a big
It's
one.
just a one long
Putting-
pull. And
Yeah.
like
Let
lift
me
the
tell
finger.
you,
Lift the
let
finger.
me tell
Exactly.
you,
Yep,
you
yep.
let him work and you let him do it. Like it
Yes.
could take him hours, but he's gonna do it.
He's gonna do it.
He's
He'll
gonna do
figure
it.
out.
Eventually, he'll be doing it in 2
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
So it's all worth it. So I also, because I'm also an ABA therapist, I'll sometimes also post just techniques
Events
and things or events that workshops that parents can go to and learn more information about their child and certain challenges that they face. And that's basically it. And then we have our autism walk. That's for Northern New Jersey. That will be on May 18th.
All right.
It's a
Mark your
Saturday,
calendars. Mark your
yes.
calendars.
It's in Bloomfield or Brookdale. It's Brookdale,
Brookdale Park.
in Bloomfield.
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah. It's a really nice park. Last year it rained, but it's rain or shine event. So we got everyone ponchos. Everybody was out there.
He's still out there. getting
It was
done.
real cool. It was
That's
nice.
cool.
Yeah.
All right.
You want to do your Instagram?
No,
So just for
it's a whole nother.
those shape challenged pencil.
Did you just call me shape
No,
challenge?
don't say that.
What was it you said? Oh, for those who
Shape
are A-shaped,
challenge.
like O'Day though. Like O'Day.
A-shaped.
A-shaped like
Like a-
O'Day.
We prefer to be called people living without muscles.
Yeah, sure.
Mean Gene Muscle. That's my page. It's a fitness page. You know, I go on there, put some tips on there. You know, if you want to, you know, check it out. There's some, you know, tips, and I put on my Insta story, you know, my workouts I do for the day, and you know, things like that. Men and women, you know, not just men and women.
We're gonna start going to the gym together and doing the workouts.
Bruh, listen.
You should. You need a buddy. I just can't work out with him. It's too much.
You know what?
I did it.
I
could.
You could stop.
I
could.
did it. Yes,
Well,
I
you did it
survived.
many times.
I'm a survivor.
Yes.
I am a survivor.
It's not bad. Oh my gosh.
But it does. He does cater a lot to women too.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the workouts that he has, he modifies it, and he'll tell you like,
Okay.
look, you could do this. He's like, if I could do this, you could do this.
Really
too.
don't need to modify. Actually, you can
He
just,
doesn't modify it.
No, I don't. I'm about to say you don't.
He doesn't.
He's
I
like,
don't
first of all,
modify.
I
Like,
never modified.
Yeah.
No, you can do.
You gonna do this
He's like-
workout?
Yeah.
Women can do the same things men can do. So that's another thing. You can lift weights. That's heavy. Don't. That's another. I see. I could go into this.
You might not lift them
Yeah.
as quickly as I can, but eventually,
Yeah,
you
eventually.
gonna lift them.
Yeah, you gonna lift.
Yeah.
You ain't
Yeah.
leaving this gym until you lift them.
Yeah,
You
seriously.
won't get muscles. You won't get muscles.
But I
All right.
think that same mentality that he has, that's how he applies it to the kids.
Yeah.
He's always doing. He's like, you can do it.
Nice.
He's like, I don't know. He's like, nope. He's like, you're built like me. You built like me. You could do this.
That's awesome,
You know?
though. Kids need to hear that. And a lot of times they
You can do
don't.
it.
Like the parents don't even realize they're not communicating that.
Yeah,
gotta-
but the
And
You
like,
can
kids
do
are
it.
especially
looking up
the
to
you're
you.
like me, because they're
Yeah.
like, no, but you're,
Yeah.
you're not, and you're like, no, you are.
You are. You're me.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Yes.
I was like, you're me. You're
You're
us.
me, you're
That's
your
what we
mother.
say.
Powerful,
You're
right?
me. You're us,
you're me,
and you
you're
can
your
do
mother.
this.
We're
Yeah.
very strong people. Your mother's
We say it all the time.
very strong.
All
Strong.
the
Oh,
time.
that's awesome.
You're
Yep.
see one of the strongest women you ever gonna see. So
Oh.
I was just about to. I was just about to.
yeah,
I
it ain't
was-
just me. It ain't just me.
I was just gonna say, allow me to
baby.
keep you out here for 5 more minutes because there's something I had to bring up. When we were talking about working on certain things, and I told you, you know, we're working on Khalil with socks, taking his socks off. He's taking his shirt. Well, he's randomly takes his shirt off sometimes nowadays because he's want to go shirtless. But I'm sure you've had these moments where you'll see both of your kids do something, reach this milestone, whether it's taking socks off, cutting the pancakes, and you see him do it, or I'll see Khalil do something, and I know, yo, he just took his socks off, but I know, you know what, Vicky taught him that, and I look at Vicky, I'm like, yo, she's nice with it, yo,
Yeah.
cause I know.
But do you tell her?
No,
It-
so
You gotta tell her. You gotta tell her. Listen, that's one thing you have to do. You
You're right,
have to
you're right.
appreciate
I'm
it,
so
and you
guilty
have
of
to
that.
give credit when
Yeah.
it's due. And like, you know,
That's key, right? Because you guys were talking about like the communication, and
Mhm.
I thought that was
Yes.
cool when she's like,
gotta
at
give
the end of the
praises.
day, we're
Give the high
just like,
five,
Yes.
yeah.
he
Yes,
you
survived.
gotta give
Yeah.
praise.
But I'm sure you've had those moments where you're like, yo, I could have never like. There's so many things that Khalil does that Vicky taught him,
I'm trying to think. I know what you're saying. Let me
and
think.
I'm like, yo, she's killing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, like I'll be in here, like he knows how to, do stuff for my sister. He knows how to turn my equipment on, and I'm proud of
messes
myself.
it all up. Oh, they will spend like hours fixing it, and then
Trying to
Khalil's
figure
like,
out why a mic's not working. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that all the time. A lot of things, because like I said,
But it's
she-
amazing. It's
She spent a
amazing.
lot of time with them in the evening, and I'm at work, so it'd be times. It was something that came up, and I was like, no, don't do it. And you was like, you had to tell me, you're like, no, they know what they're doing. They do, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what? And I was like, they do. What was it? I don't remember
I
what
don't
it was.
know.
It's because it's been so many things. It's
I
been a
know.
couple things, but it's specifically, I remember the one thing. I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, they do it. I'm like, okay. And I was like, and I just let me see. I was like, let me see then. I was like, let me
because
see.
he's always
Let me see.
trying to prove
And I
me
was
wrong.
Like this, and I was let me see. And I go look, and I'm like,
You got that. You got that.
I was like, okay. I was like, all right, she got it. I was like, all right. And in my head, I'm like, God damn, all right, that's good, babe. I was like, damn. I was like, okay. I was like, that's good, babe. That's good. Okay.
That's exactly how he
good.
says it. He'll be like, "That's good, babe. All right."
That's good.
I
And
guess.
then he'll be like, "All right, good job, babe. Good job."
That's good.
Like you taught him how to do a backflip. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'll see Khalil coming down the stairs. I'll go to grab him. Vicky be like, "Don't worry, he got it." And I'm like, No.
Oh yeah, when he's like
Exactly.
coming downstairs
Exactly.
with Khalil holding
Yeah.
his hand, I'm like, let his hand go.
Because in my head last
Yeah.
week,
Like,
this
let it
kid
go.
couldn't come down the
Yeah.
stairs.
Yes, that's what it was. I forget what it was, but yeah, same
Yeah,
thing.
but
Yep.
2 days with Vicky, and the
Yep.
kid is holding on to the wall, coming down the stairs. And while he's doing it, he's like, 1,
yeah, he counts
2,
it.
and he's like, Daddy, I got it. I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
she just taught him how to do that in like
Yeah.
2 days.
Yep.
And you know what? I'm realizing now, she's always had that in her. Because I'll leave for work, and by the time I come home, this is before we had Khalil, our dog will know how to give a high five, stand up, turn around, roll.
Yeah.
Because Vicky will teach our dog how to do the simplest, the hardest tricks in less than a day. And she's continued that with Khalil. I'm just like, yo, she's, like I said before, she's
But it's
crushing
like
it.
it's trusting your partner.
Yeah.
It's trusting your partner that they also have the same abilities that you do
Yeah.
to do this job.
Yeah.
You know,
You have
'Cause
the abilities.
You do. You.
Talking about
And you know what, too? I humble myself because I thought going into a child with a condition, I have the 7 years of experience working with. I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm going to be the one crushing it. But nah, it was the complete opposite.
yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
now,
whoever is with them the most
Yeah.
usually that they have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, Jim.
No, that's my mom. That's why he's spoiled,
Aw.
and that's why he acts
a whole
up.
other episode.
Yeah. Well, I say it's
Oh,
a couple
that's nice.
topics
I'm
on
just
here.
grandmas.
We gotta come back here a couple more
We
times.
gonna
Yeah. There's some things. Yeah, we can just keep going.
But we want to thank you guys
Yes.
so
Thank
much
you guys.
for
This
being
was
here.
awesome.
No problem.
Don't forget they can find you at Trailblazer Mom on Instagram. They can find you at
Mean Gene Muscle.
Mean Gene
Mean
Muscle.
Gene
You can find Vicky via my Instagram, phoenixmpm.com. No, I'm joking.
No, it's true. I don't really have.
You
one.
don't have one, right?
No.
No IG?
Just
No,
know that
no,
anytime
no.
you're communicating with us via the You Me We podcast
It's
page.
usually me,
You're talking to
but
Vicky.
sometimes it is O'Dane.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the only time it's me is that first post saying new episode alert. All the time.
no. Like, but when you
it's-
message, sometimes
Yeah,
it is
once
you.
in a blue, it's me.
And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I don't remember talking to that person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 30 of the You, Me, We podcast. This might end up being episode 30 and 31. So I want to make sure people hear everything we've talked about. You might break it up
Yeah,
into
this
two,
was
maybe.
awesome.
This was great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
You, Me,
you.
We podcast.
problem.
Peace.